Christian maturity has little to do with age, but all to do with receiving and reflecting God's love. Christ's love and manhood are synonymous. When I became a man, I gave up foolish, immature ways. Beloved, let us love one another, for love is from God. Will we go with that, guys? Love is from God. We'll go with that, right? Whoever loves has been born of God and knows God. We got to know God before we understand His love. Anyone who does not love does not know God. Uh-oh. Why? Because God is love. How many have heard God is love before? How many times do you hear someone say, love is God? Love is God. All we hear is God is love. But I think it's important as men that we understand love, true, biblical, spiritual love, is not only what God does, it's who God is. It's His very essence. Why is it important for you and I to know this? Because you're not going to trust and love a God that you don't know this about. No matter where you go, when times get tough, you're going to default back to the flesh. You're going to default back to Egypt. You're going to default back to society. And when Satan throws in your way, as you start counting the cost and shrinking back. That's how it works. That's how it works. What is the difference between God is love and love is God? What is the difference? Let's go to Scripture. One day I was reading in Scripture. It was actually the verses before 1 Corinthians 13:11 about maturity that Paul was talking about. One day I was reading before that. And this is actually the picture of what I did many years ago. And I crossed out the word love, and I put the word God there. And I put the word God there, and I went, wow. And I started reading it over and over in the morning, because God is not only love, love is God. God is not only love, love is God. So then I went further after doing that, and I'll read it with you. What I did is the Lord impressed upon me to put the name Jesus there. And I want to read this with you. You could follow me if you like. For those of you online, hopefully you can see. Jesus, now you could put God here too, but Jesus is patient. Jesus is kind, caring more about us than Himself. By the way, for you theologians, I did paraphrase this. Okay, Jesus is not rude, but is gracious. He, meaning Jesus, God, does not control nor demand His own way. Wow. Love never demands its own way. Love allows free will. That's the way God designed it. He is never irritable or touchy. God does not hold grudges when we sin, nor is resentful of anyone else. That's pretty obvious, right? He sees our sin, yet rejoices in the truth of His word in the gospel. He sees our sin, but doesn't focus on the sin. He rejoices in the love of the gospel, that He took your sin on the cross, forgave you, accepted you, and rose again and make you a new kind of man, as long as you accept Him. Jesus bears our silly by believing, hoping, and enduring all things. Jesus never fails. Never fails. Why is that so important? Why is it important that we stay here? Because we need to know that God is love and love is God. Why? I'm going to say it again. So you and I can trust Christ more and love Christ more and obey Christ more. And if we don't know Christ and His nature and His love, that He will work out all things, say all things. All things. He will work out all things for good. He's not going to turn bad things into good. He's going to take bad that happens in our life and add the good to it, and it's going to come out good. You get that? You know, the death of a 5-year-old child, no matter how you look at it, has very little good to it. Would you agree? What's happened in the Ukraine has very little good to it. But it will come out for the good for those who love Him and are called according to His purpose. That's His promise. Yeah, but. I get your but your but is delusional. I get it. I feel the same way. We're together in this. But He felt the same way too. He felt everything you and I are feeling. But He decided to stand firm with the Word. Because why? Why did he trust God? Why did he go? I love 1 Peter. All Peter talks about is in the face of adversity, we're trusting God when every voice around us screams not to. That's courage. That's manhood. The bravest moments in a man's life is when he chooses, say choose, chooses to trust God in spite of all those voices screaming not to, all the good reasons not to. That's what he says. That's why we need each other to be able to do this. 1 Peter, he goes on. And one of my favorite verses in 1 Peter is in 1 Peter 2:21. And basically what it says here, without getting into it, it says, I'm called to follow Christ. Are you called to follow Christ? You're called to imitate God. But here's the most wonderful thing that I found in imitating God. He left you and I an example to follow. He left you and I that we should follow in His footsteps. And this leaving you an example. I'm not trying to get too theological with you, but I can't let it go. Leaving you an example, all those English words is one Greek word called upogramos. Okay, you know what that was? I got to show this to you because it's so amazing, this word example, what Jesus left for us. The upogramos was in Plato's time. It was, picture a wooden book with leather ties that each student in the classroom got. And what the teacher, the upogramos noun, upograme word, what the teacher did was he wrote letters in a wax. And he did the outline of the letters in a wax so the student can take a pen-like object and learn how to write. How did he do this? How did he do this? By following the outline of the pattern, the hupogrammos, the teacher, Jesus, already laid before us. He not only empowers us, He sets an example for us. He not only empowers, He sets the example for us. Jesus was the fulfillment of God's purpose and design for manhood. Man of God, that's who we have to depend upon. But we have to know His love. We must know that before we trust Him anymore. And our job is to reach men to do what? Speak about the gospel? Well, after they know the gospel, the elementary principles, what do? Our job is to help men grow in their trust and faith in Jesus Christ. Not us, in Jesus Christ. And that's what God designed the system for, of discipleship. So you and I could rejoice over what Christ did for you and me. And that love of Christ accepts us. It accepts us in spite of us. Isn't that amazing? Greg, isn't that amazing? Right? It accepts us in spite of us, and in spite of us probably sinning tomorrow is a good choice, in our thoughts at least, right? Not Timmy, but in our thoughts. It approves of us as sons of God. It approves of us as sons of God. Christian maturity has little to do with age, but all to do with receiving and reflecting God's love. I want to say that again. Christian maturity has little to do with age, but all to do with receiving and reflecting God's love. How do we do that? Where do we move into? We're going to talk about that in the next session. But right now, I want to ask you that last question that we spoke about before. What was your definition of manhood growing up compared to what your definition is today?